Hi everybody, it's Sadler here at VEX Rules. We're checking in with VEX U team. It's KUDOS from Kettering University, phenomenal team that we love to capture every single year here at VEX Rules. And they brought a few different robots here we're going to be talking about. You've probably maybe seen these two on the sides here before, so we'll be diving more into that. They do have a new robot as well too. We're not sure if we'll see it at VEX Worlds, but we'll talk about some of the different things with it. This robot here, cool H drive with 10 motors, we'll be diving more into. You talk more about block capacity and some really cool Raspberry Pi electronics they're doing on these two robots as well too. So let's learn more about them coming up here on Bits and Parts. Nathan, let's talk about the newer robots here. First off, all your robots are named after cars themed, right, as well too. So let's talk about this H drive, the 10 motors into it, and anything else you want to highlight on it.
Yep, sounds good. So here we have Sally, and one of the very first important things about Sally was our strategy. So for Worlds, it's our experimental robot. We actually have an under goal robot that flips down like this, so we can go under the goal. Because of this, we actually have to take into account our wing and all of our wing height as well. So when we're in the up position, then our wing fully extends and deploys as well. Then on our drivetrain, because mobility is so important for this game, we actually have a 10 motor drive spinning at 480 RPM at 2.75 inch wheels, and they're all compacted like this. These drivetrain pods are very, very thin. The drivetrain shafts are only about 7/8 of an inch long, just so we can package all of our H drive motors as well as our indexer as well. What we have right here in the center of the robot is our H drive pod, which is known as a rocker H drive pod, inspired from other robotics competitions. So it's a 2-motor H drive pod, and pretty much why we rock like this is because when it's in the neutral position, it just hovers so we can park like normal. And then it'll actually, when we start spinning the motors, it'll rock into the direction that we're spinning it and actually get more traction on the ground because it's pretty much digging into the tile carpets and slightly lifting the robot up. So the 4 corner wheels aren't like having as much weight on the robot, and most of the weight is on the wheels themselves.
Now, for somebody who hasn't driven like an H-drive robot before, how does that driving style differ from either like a Mecanum or Sword drive or anything like that?
Yeah, so we actually did have both of our drivers are experienced with holonomic drives, and we were experimenting with doing a field-centric control rather than a robot-centric control for this robot. But with some time constraints and everything like that, we did go with robot-centric control. Just because we imagine the robot as you're driving it like a tank and all omni drive, and then you're using the H drive for alignment, and instead of having to turn and things like that, you're just strafing side to side for different like alignment positionings as well.
It's just talking cars, kind of like Tokyo Drift a little bit, right?
Exactly.
You do some cool drifts. Have you done any cool like drifting tricks with it or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, when we first built it, we were just having a ton of fun playing with the H drive. We were whipping it around all the longles and stuff like that, doing movements we could not do before, so it was a lot of fun.
We might have to try to get some footage of that as well too, so that'd be really cool to see. Anything else on this robot you wanted to highlight?
No, that's about it.
Perfect. Let's take a look at your other 2 robots that you have as well.
Before we get to our next segment, we'd like to thank the following.
Kettering University's cutting-edge programs and their experiential co-op model seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds, offering hands-on, feature-focused learning that empowers students to pursue new ideas and inspires other institutions to follow their lead. Don't just be ahead of the curve, create the curve. Get more information at kettering.edu/vex. The Robotics Education and Competition Foundation provides fantastic programs for students from elementary school all the way through college. These include VEX, aerial drone competition, online challenges, JROTC, girl-powered, scholarships, certifications, and so much more. To discover these exciting opportunities, visit recf.org and get connected. So Nathan, we have a couple more robots here as well too. We're going to be discussing the scraper, the block capacity. Why don't you introduce them and let's learn more about them?
Yeah, so this mechanism up here, we actually call it what we call the multi-tool. Other teams like to call it a scraper. Pretty much, it's a little bit different because first off, it's motorized, so we can actually have different heights. What this allows us to do is because these robots cannot go under the goal, the blocks that start under the long goal, we're able to actually reach in and pretty much grab them and pull them out like that. The other thing is that in VEX U, both for skills and matches, you have 4 blocks that start in the park zone. So this robot, since it's designed to be within 15 by 15 starting configuration, but it's considered our 24-inch robot, we actually have the 4 blocks lined up right here, and then we start this all the way down. So during skills, the very first action that we do is scrape those, and then so we can score those blocks as well. Since these were very skills-centric robots as they were built for the early season, another thing was capacity. So in this giant S-curve robot, which for context, this robot is 15 inches cubed, we can actually hold 10 blocks in that S-curve. And we can actually hold an additional 4 blocks in our scraper as well when that is down. So we have a theoretical 14 block capacity whenever we're running skills.
So I know you had your experimental robot, right? But for these, did you do any optimizations for VEX rules on these robots at all?
Yes, we did. So pretty much what we optimize for Vex Worlds, we have this Limelight vision camera, which we'll talk more about later, but that's for aligning to our aligning to the match loaders for more consistent autons. And some more optimization was just some tuning with like different flap angles and things like that as well for long goal scoring, as well as for center goal scoring, some compression tuning and things like that as well.
For those who are not as familiar with the VEX-U game as well too, or maybe more tuned to VEX V5 or something like that, what are the key differences in terms of like either match strategy or play that we might see?
Yeah, so autonomous is very, very crucial in VEX-U as well as V5. But the thing about VEX-U is that you get match loads. What match loads change about this game is that you can overload the goals a lot more, and since you have 30 seconds for autonomouses, you can overload them at like the very last second and pretty much like explode them and explode the other blocks out. There is still like a lot of wing play as well, which is very similar to high school, but the autonomouses are so crucial just because of those match loads.
Maktar, you got so many cool custom electronics with this. We were talking earlier, a lot of great stuff going on with Raspberry Pi on these robots as well too. So give us a great overview on what you're all doing with these machines.
Yeah, so when we started the season, we really wanted to integrate custom electronics for better autos, since auto is so crucial, as Nathan said. So starting off, we have 2 odometry pods that we made with our custom quadrilateral encoders. So these are PCBs that we designed. So then we made these quadrilateral encoders to actually interface with a Go Build a Pinpoint, which is the FTC popular solution to odometry. And the idea for us was that if we had an odometry computer, we could run less on our brain, compute less, things like that. So that's how we actually started our whole custom stack. So to integrate all of that, we actually added a Raspberry Pi 02W on our robot. And so we have the I2C communication going to the Raspberry Pi from the pinpoint. And then we have this RS485 hat that we bought on Amazon. We actually attempted designing our own version of that hat. Ended up not using it here at Worlds, but the idea is this hat communicates to the V5 brain, and then the Raspberry Pi communicates to the hat, and the pinpoint communicates to the Raspberry Pi. So it's like this snake chain that ends up through a smart port. You have a pinpoint, but the Raspberry Pi, the beauty with it is that you can run anything through the Pi, and it takes one smart port. So if we needed to run more solenoids, more new sensors, we just run them through the Pi. So we actually are running our Limelight through our Raspberry Pi. So we have a Limelight 3A just over USB to our Raspberry Pi. And then we use the HTTP Limelight library. So we literally just go to the Limelight HTTP library, make a call, scrape the website, the JSON file, and then we send that data through a packet to the V5 brain. So we have this bulk read where every frame we send a bulk read packet to the brain, and then it's a call response. So the brain responds with a call that says, I need more data. And so it's this constant flip-flop. So our robots actually know when the Raspberry Pi is not plugged in or when we have no pinpoint data. And so we actually leverage that in our code. So the robot will tell you that you're not getting any odometry data. And so we've had like 1 billion times like faster odometry calculation just because it's off robot. And then with our Limelight alignment, because our match loader is actually super finicky with our centering. So we added this camera, and then so we literally went from hitting the loader like once a day, like it was a miracle, to literally almost every auto we're centered on the loader.
Something I want to ask you is, you have a lot of great electronics in VEX-U and things that you can use for it. What would you say to students that are either in like a VEX V5 program or other competitive robotics programs who might be interested in getting the VEX-U? What made you get into it, and what advice would you have for them to continue?
Yeah, so I got into VEX-U because I did robotics in high school. But something I really love about VEX-U is the custom electronic side of it. So for students in high school, I think the biggest thing is you should still try to do things. Like we have 2 VEX distance sensors on our robot to get our distance off the wall. And this is a plug and play sensor. Like this is the same thing that you could use. So if you take all of these advanced software approaches in high school, you'll find that in VEX-U, it's like, oh yeah, this is the same thing I did, but I want to use this more advanced sensor. So if you really are interested in learning this custom stack or getting into VEX-U, in high school, you should attempt these harder things like Monte Carlo localization and things like that.
Well, overall, kudos. Thank you so much for taking the time. Awesome set of robots. Always great to check in and see all the innovation that happens with the Kettering University team as well, too. So wish you best of luck here at VEX Worlds, and thanks for showcasing these awesome machines.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. The Robotics Education and Competition Foundation provides fantastic programs for students from elementary school all the way through college. These include VEX, aerial drone competition, online challenges, JROTC, girl-powered, scholarships, certifications, and so much more. To discover these exciting opportunities, visit recf.org and get connected. Kettering University's cutting-edge programs and their experiential co-op model seamlessly blend the professional and academic worlds, offering hands-on, future-focused learning that empowers students to pursue new ideas and inspires other institutions to follow their lead. Don't just be ahead of the curve, create the curve. Get more information at kettering.edu/vex.